Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
Sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
If we're going to really understand fate and we're going to understand bliss, then we have to understand where everything fits within that. And love is definitely going to be one of those critical pieces, because when it comes to love, as we've written about in our books, it's done as much good as it has harm, especially as we have, the preponderance of love, right? And it's like bigger and smaller versions. If we've subscribed to the kind of lowercase L love, which is effectively like codependent relationships, it hasn't necessarily helped in our pursuit of happiness. But we did say in a previous episode of the season, it was certainly the best addiction we could have had. Where does love fit? Yeah, it can't certainly fit in this version that we are. So where does where do we stand with it? We kind of don't. It doesn't fit with bliss. Now, it doesn't mean that once we're in bliss, love ceases to exist, but our experience of bliss actually occupies all the space that love did. So there's no room for it.
Okay. So basically bliss is like love plus plus, but not love, but kind of.
In its most accurate breakdown, like bliss would be the divine plus plus.
Okay.
Right? So much more fits in that love would occupy a very small portion of it.
Well, because if love is acting your light for others to see, then effectively what that is love is exercising your divinity. Okay. So once you're in, like, that's effectively what we mean, right? When you say shining our light, you're doing something that brings you joy, or you're loving something, you're literally shining your connection to your fate and how you're actually like living it effectively. Right? Yeah. It's those moments of like fate and destiny that you are embodying to the point where you are shining your light.
Yeah. And that's what moves us through our karmic undoing process, right? Because that light gives us a destination. That channel, right?
More and more light, basically.
Exactly, to move through. And that's what we talked in that previous episode about where love fits. That light was the best addiction we could have had, because it moves us on that. It's a forward-moving trajectory that it sets us on. And that's really important.
But then, when you're in bliss, so you're in a state of being where you are just the divine, and it's not about growing and evolving, it's just about maintaining that feeling, that being, then I guess it's like, in my head, it's like shining your light plus, 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 because it's your divinity. So it's not like love ceases to exist. It's just the love that how we knew love ceases to exist. Because we're connecting in a different way.
Yeah.
Love as we knew it ceases to exist because something so much more connected and divine and amazing is in its place.
We don't throw away these things. We evolve into a new understanding around them, right? Because when we're in bliss, so like one of the underpinnings of love, again, that's shining the light, is hope.
Yeah. Well, it's trust, faith, hope, and knowing are the four foundations. They make the foundations of love.
Exactly.
Because they create foundations for love.
Right. And so when we are in bliss, we effectively do not require hope. So hope is, as we defined it, is that kind of innate desiring. And we no longer desire when we're in bliss.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds a bit counterintuitive, but effectively in that whole everything, everywhere, all at once concept, everything is a given and it just merely comes. Because we're looking, when you're in bliss, you're effectively magic plus plus.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything is just kind of coming your way. You almost don't even have to try. If you're trying, you kind of probably know then that there's something that you're not taking into account.
Okay. So you don't need to hope for more because you're just going to be given more and more and more. Well, sorry, you'll just receive more and more and more.
Exactly. So if hope is what allows you to fully love and shine, because it's allowing you to direct your energies, that light, toward what you think you want, need, desire, right? In order to fulfill a purpose and a relationship. And if hope isn't needed for bliss, you can kind of understand where love then doesn't have a place as we had previously defined it.
It's that difference between, and I guess this is why fate is so important. It's the difference between being like, I need to make this happen because I want more, and understanding, well, it's written in my fate and I'm living my fate, so it just is.
Yeah.
And if it and it's written when it's written and how it's written, and all I have to do is keep moving forward and keep living and keep moving in this space, it will be.
Yeah. So when you get to bliss, everything...
So that's kind of hopeless, because you don't need to hope for it, because you're not reaching for it. You're not looking for something in a future. It's a given.
Yes, and we did talk about that in some episode where it's you effectively become hopeless.
Yeah.
Not in that sort of despondent way, is you don't need it anymore. It's
you're not searching for it from like the, there's this idea that in order for us to have something happen to, and yes, we have to make choices, and yes, we have to keep moving forward, and yes, we have to keep living our lives and being in flow and all of those things. That's all really important. But it's not about the idea of, you have to like work really hard and strive for it to then realize your gains. It's not like that, because the more you just live your life and the more you keep growing and evolving, and until you stop, great news, the more you just allow whatever's written to appear. You're no longer hoping, because you no longer have to create whatever's coming, because you already have created it, and you are creating it by simply living. You don't need to shine your light, because you are being your light.
Exactly. So it's less about doing, which is the shining, right? And really owning that you are the divine, which is bliss, and that is being, which is why bliss is that constant state of being. When we go through our magic process, right? When we're really understanding, and that comes from getting in touch with our desire, fun, joy, and having that channel is really important. And desire is really the critical piece for magic. So what happens though is that desire then, and knowing what we desire, and effectively hope, which is that desire, ends up becoming the crutch that we can start relying on a bit too heavily. And then that keeps us a bit stuck. Now, some people might be like, well, who cares if I'm in magic? That's enough. I don't mind being stuck in that kind of pattern, right? That's fine. But then at some point things get frustrating. As we know, if we can't move forward, if we know there's somewhere else to be, but we're somehow not in a circle in the same way, because it's not hell, it's not going to feel karmic. It's just going to be like, oh, I'm in this place, but I feel like there's something more, but I just don't know what's going on. It would be like that. What
you're effectively needing to do is to implicitly trust your fate.
It's actually not trusting your fate. It's knowing full well. It is knowing, but knowing in a way in which we've never understood knowing before.
Knowing in a way that is much bigger than one of the foundations of love.
Precisely.
So knowing effectively takes over all the other ones.
Yes.
So it's no longer trust, faith, hope, and knowing. It's just knowing, which is a lot stronger, right? It's conviction. It doesn't require any leaps of faith.
It's actually not. It's actually not even conviction. It's complete clarity.
Okay.
It's I am the divine. I am the fullest embodiment of the divine, right? That I can be in human form. So everything I say, everything I become, everything I achieve and experience is as the divine at any given moment, right? And that is the difference between bliss and happiness. And this is a really, really big piece. And this is why we said so many people who teach spirituality, if you will, this is the piece and the tide of fate that most people don't understand, and that they can't teach because they don't understand the fundamentals, which is what we've been trying to give you guys for these years, right? But we could never teach you the end before we got you through these initial stages, which is that effectively most people won't necessarily get to bliss in this lifetime, but they have the capacity for greater and greater happiness than they can even know. And the spiritual path is actually not the path to happiness.
No, which we've discussed in one of these episodes.
Precisely.
You can understand it from a spiritual place, but actually you just have to live.
You could even barely understand it. You could barely understand it from a spiritual place. Barely.
It doesn't matter.
Because you need desire. You need joy. You need fun, right? You need all of those. It's just... you need the expanded perspective. That's the one piece that spirituality gives that the other pieces don't get, right? Once you have that expanded perspective, but you're applying your other humanness to it, is really how that's the combination.
Yeah.
Right? That's the winning formula, because that's what allows us to sort of shed and shed some more. And then we can grow and grow some more. And then we evolve, and we evolve past where we are currently evolving to. So
is the shedding process ever done?
That's a really good question. No, not when we're on the path to bliss. So we can really start to get there from about 2029 onward. Okay, so imagine that somebody's on the path in the pursuit of happiness. I mean, it's a cliche phrase, but I kind of enjoy it. But so say you're on the path to happiness, right? Which is, again, the precursor to bliss. Now, if you can imagine that when you get to your highest happiness, what does it then look like in terms of where you get to bliss?
Yeah.
From there, is it a matter of months? Is it a matter of years? Is it sort of the same scale movement in terms of shedding, growing, and evolving? And it's not. Once you've hit highest happiness, bliss is effectively just a leap, not a massive one, not a tiny one. It's just a little oomph. I can't describe it. It's not a jump into an abyss. It's not even like a jump off a cliff. It's like this leap. And it doesn't feel like a stretch. You can stay in highest happiness, and that would be amazing. To get from karmic undoing process to highest happiness in a single lifetime, my God.
But why is it so long? Why won't we get there sooner?
Because, as you like to say, experience makes normal. Like, we need opportunities of sustained happiness, as well as for the world. Not waiting for
like the shoe to drop and all the
precisely
things.
That way we
can build on something.
We need to have space for this, because we really have to understand it's like anything else. You just don't. It's not a light switch. It creates too much dissonance and too much discordance. That vibrationally it's too difficult. You can't match that. Right? It's like dropping, again, it's that kind of visual, which is such an overused one. But that was the only one I got. It's like taking a baby to like a heavy metal concert. It just doesn't work. And it is just too disruptive.
And I guess we also need the world to be in a place where we can be doing these things. So the energy needs to be lighter, etc. Because you can't really express happiness into a void, right? No, you can't. It's a human form. So you need to be living and breathing it in our everyday lives.
Exactly. So just like every other process we have shared, it starts in a small interior way until it can grow outward.
Yeah. So now I don't live a karmic life.
No. And everything about your life reflects that.
So then it's not really about like being in spirit and spiritual practices and all the spiritual stuff. It's really about like we're needing our human bodies.
You are, because spirit isn't capable of bliss. Because the divine is always in bliss, right? But what we're here to experience is bliss in body, right? The divine in body. And that means we need our human bodies really put together and healthy. I mean, I would add healthy enough, because I feel like I don't know what the fuck my body's doing.
I mean, mine neither.
High on consciousness, in higher consciousness, within this earth plane, because to be able to achieve that, even like a modicum of that, within this dynamism of life on earth, I mean, that's the real consciousness game. That's like winning that game. I mean, that's crushing that game.
Which is why I guess we need to ready ourselves in on all the steps we've described, right? Doing the karmic undoing process, doing the ego, like learning what magic is, following that happiness and building towards it, and just keep building and building. And I guess that's why we also probably need to trust the process.
Yes. Yeah, we really do. And that's the goal of this lifetime and effectively the next 5 lifetimes. That's where we're going to really reach that apex of 5th dimensional oneness consciousness. That's how we can really enter into this like new dimension of reality. So after 2024, we're going to see a greater acceleration of time so that our evolution can catch up to our potential, which is something that we haven't really been able to experience. And that's what a lot of people are going to be seeing more and more, is like, how far can I be stretched so I can really see what I'm capable of? But that's why we have always, since season 1, banged on about purpose, because purpose is the way that you can not just channel your joy, but really exercise your potential. So the more into your purpose you are, the more you have a channel for that. And that's really key, because that's where you're going to grow the most. That enables us to really get into our power. And when we're in our purpose, we can find a channel for that power, that joy, that power, that light. What are you just most passionate about?
Yeah.
What's calling you?
Ironically, love.
Yes.
Sorry, no, you know what? It's not necessarily love. It's how we relate. It's how we connect. That's what I'm passionate about. Connection.
Exactly.
It's not love, it's connection.
Connection. And that's what a lot of people are going to be focused on, who had maybe perhaps believed and known that they came here for love, and really allowing that idea to elevate and constantly be elevated. So that way they're not just kind of staunchly holding on because of their identity and stuff. And it's going to be, and I will share this nugget for people as well who maybe aren't always also like relationshipy and maybe wonder why we bang on about relationships. Say you're not in that relationshipy phase, right? Like, because for me, my karmic undoing process really didn't have to do with relationship. And I don't talk about that a lot. For me, it was very work-based. Right? Where I knew I came in for a reason, very, very clear, that had nothing to do with love, unlike you. And so I channeled that into thinking it was about work, whatever that meant to me, right? And so for me, it was always about feeling and experience. So my karmic story was around having setbacks around work. Now, and that's in the books, right? So I'm not going to rehash that. Now, so if for anybody who's experiencing their not good enough story, who are out of it and are out of their karma, are out of their hell and stuff, what this period is going to look like is really about stretching you to in such a way where was my potential that I can finally now put forward in my work. And I'm not necessarily saying purpose, but for people who really are here to work jobs, who really are career focused, that doesn't necessarily go away when you're in your purpose. Yeah. I mean, we're still human. We still have bills to pay. We still have families to support. We still have, we still need to eat. We still have a life that we pay for. And so when it comes to those who are really into career building, that won't necessarily change, but it's about, so for those of you who are there, it's going to be about really reaching beyond where you thought or believed you could get to. And in a way that is very true to you. Now, I don't mean like get over your imposter syndrome and, go for the CEO job, but it really is about imagining and seeing yourself beyond where you could have always envisioned yourself in that grand scheme. So for those who've always wondered if they were ready, that time from 2025 through 2026 is going to be you showing that you were ready and that you always knew. Because separation has always just kept us enslaved and in a position where we've always just kind of surrendered our potential, surrendered our power. So we are just going to see ourselves 2024 less so, as much as, I know 2024 was always that kind of time frame in terms of like 5D foundation building and oneness, blah, blah, blah. And we always did say because of those 2 years in 2021 to 2022, that time frame got pushed off. So we bought ourselves, like we do have a cushion in which we can really develop the consciousness needed for oneness. And we have through 2025 to get there. So if you can really step into that world that you want for yourself, you'll be even closer and you'll help the rest of us get there too.
Which is why love served a great way to overcome the barriers that the temples created, but also why I guess it can't fully serve what's necessary for full divine embodiment. Because it's not just about hoping and trusting and having faith. It's just knowing it to your very core, and that's power.
Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.